There you go.
Audio rolling.
Action.
Which one's the...
There should also be a red button next to a camera.
That's what I pressed.
It should.
Is it on video?
Oh, maybe not. No, don't you like before the scenes audio? Come on now.
Harley has no idea what she's doing.
That's the best kind of before the scenes audio.
We're wasting battery life.
Oh, I got it now. As soon as you stood up, I got it. Literally as soon as you stood up.
She said she's got it.
Oh, it is. Okay. Looking at this right
She said she's got it.
I was like, oh wait, yeah, the dial thing.
I want to get makeup on this. Can we talk about how I'm kind of sad about the fact that I put makeup on and then I have to wash it off like right away?
You're the one that wanted to put makeup on.
Because it makes me pretty.
I'm not wearing makeup. Am I still pretty? Camera's rolling.
Camera's rolling. Both of them?
Yeah.
Is it red when it's recording?
Yep.
Oh, I've never... Hello.
Hello and welcome to Your Thoughts Podcast. This is Tyler Beck and I've got Brandie Lane here and we're going to talk about the Art Institute. We're changing things up. Brandie's actually usually behind the camera, but today we've got Harley behind the camera and she's also got a mic.
I sure do, and I really don't know what I'm doing.
You're just going to ask questions if you don't know what's happening, I suppose.
I'm not used to being on this side of the camera.
She's a good camera person.
Doggos.
Doggos are mean.
So, the Art Institute.
I went there.
I did too, actually.
Mm.
I got an associate's in graphic design and I never received my degree.
Oh, that's really weird. I didn't graduate because the school closed abruptly on me as I was attending.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's what we're here to talk about.
That happened to a lot of students, didn't it?
It did. It happened to about, the school abruptly closed. The one that I went to specifically, to 200 students.
Was that only in your program or is that...
200 students were attending the Art Institute of Phoenix that were told they were not allowed to attend because it was closing.
Did that 200 include the students that were also attending Argosy upstairs?
I don't think so, no.
Interesting. I wonder how many students from that school didn't...
Argosy was upstairs from the Art Institute, for anybody who doesn't know. Argosy owned the Art Institute, / they were the same people?
Yeah, they were housed in the same building as well. And in Phoenix's case, I think it was different for other places. But after Phoenix closed, we were going to go to Seattle, and that one also closed.
It's been a lot of fun.
So what, from your understanding, what exactly happened to cause the Art Institute to close?
There was a lot of rumors of the schools closing before all of it even happened. There was a lot of students that were looking for other institutions to go to because the Art Institute always had accreditation issues and a lot of the teachers had their credibility questioned and it just wasn't a lot of fun. So finally when they had switched receivership over from whoever owned them before to the Dream Center Education Holdings, and everybody just got this big, everything's gonna be okay. You're gonna have all that accreditation. You're gonna get jobs when you graduate. This saved us. We are now the perfect college. And so everybody was like, oh, cool, great. This is awesome. And probably within 6 months of the Dream Center taking care of the art institutes, we were alerted that the schools were closing.
A little backstory on the company that owned the Dream Center Education Holdings prior to them purchasing it. It was Education Management Corporation. They were acronymed EMC or EDMC. And they actually had declining student inflow, and they were already being sued prior to my attending the Art Institute in November of 2015. They were already being sued for accreditation issues and boiler room sales tactics. So this seemed like it was coming for a long time, but nobody knew about it, and the Department of Education seemed to let it happen as well, because Argosy was also having problems.
It's fun because I've never hated anyone in politics more than I hate Betsy DeVos at the moment, because there's a lot of responsibility that should be placed upon what kind of colleges are we running? Are they legitimate? Should we really be allowing people to run illegitimate colleges and take hundreds of thousands of dollars from students for a degree that does not help them?
Right.
There needs to be somebody up there making sure that happens. And I was under the impression that the Department of Education is doing that. And after looking more into Betsy DeVos and everything about the Department of Education, they're not doing anything. They don't care who owns a college.
Yeah, I've heard it mentioned that she has a more favorable attitude towards for-profit institutions, but what's complicated about this whole thing was Dream Center Education Holdings. I don't know if they switched over to a nonprofit or if they were already a nonprofit.
When you were attending the Art Institute, it was a for-profit university.
Right, but that was under EDMC.
Right, and then when the Dream Center Education Holdings bought it, it turned from a for-profit to a nonprofit. So it was, we're like, yeah, now we're a good college.
I actually graduated right before Dream Center purchased the whole franchise. They didn't purchase every single school, though. Pittsburgh wasn't included in that purchase. For some reason, the Department of Education didn't allow that one to go through.
Here's an idea of how unexpected the turn of events were. A lot of teachers were very kept in the dark about all of it, but you could tell that they could see some kind of behind the scenes. I remember attending the Art Institute, and shortly before it was all announced to close down, there were plans listed across the schools that talked about new renovations that were coming in, what the classrooms were going to look like, what the new floors that were coming in were going to look like, and they were just completely revamping the place only for it to suddenly be announced that it's closing.
Yeah, and when we went to go visit Seattle, and I think we did it in February.
Well, let's talk more about how that happened.
Yeah, because that was a second closure. That was after the initial closure of it. I don't even remember how many schools closed at that point.
Well, we had, I was attending Phoenix. It announced that it was going to be closing, and they told students, the students were given one of three options. They were told that they could drop out and they qualify for closed school discharge. They were told that they could use the credits that they have now, keep their loans, and move to another university, and that was what they really, really pushed on students. They're very much pushing the second option. They're very much pushing the third option, which I took, which was, if you go to another art institute, we will give you half off of your remaining tuition.
Right. And just to clarify, that was the initial closure that we're talking about was announced July of 2018, and that was they ceased enrollment of like 31 locations. But this was actually happening prior to that. Tucson's Art Institute closed well before even I attended, and there were other locations that also shut down.
Tucson had to have closed either while you were attending or shortly after graduating, because I remember the really large influx of students that started attending the Art Institute of Phoenix. I had a classmate who was driving the 2-hour drive back and forth from Tucson to Phoenix because he had 2 classes a week, and that was all he could do. He couldn't relocate to Phoenix. How do you come up with the money to relocate like that?
Yeah.
which is where my situation was more unique because they offered me a half off discount, which I thought, oh, cool, maybe I can just go to another school. And suddenly I got this check in the mail that was for $3,000, and it was a refund from the school. So come to find out, I had already borrowed all of these loans. And so what they had to do was contact FAFSA, whoever was issuing my loans, Cornerstone. Somebody sent me a check for $3,000, which was all of my loans combined, my Pell Grant, my subsidized and unsubsidized loans. And I was told after I called the Art Institute, why did I get this check? They said it was because it was refunded and that I would be getting these checks every 3 months. And that told me, oh my God, $1,000 a month being paid from my school. I could go to a really good city, give me really good exposure, and it's basically paid for. And I just pay these loans back later. I have to pay them back anyway, right? So I jumped on to that and I saw that the Art Institute of Seattle was still open, and Seattle just sounded like the perfect place to go.
And at that point, there were, I think there were 3 locations in Texas that were still open. I think maybe 1 or 2 in California. Seattle was still open. Nevada was still open. And then a bunch on the East Coast, I think. Pittsburgh was still open. But they had closed like 30 locations at that point.
They had closed a lot of other locations that I was looking into that would have been much more convenient. Like we've since relocated to Idaho, and we'll get more into that, but the Art Institute of Portland is right across the way. My family lives out here in Idaho, so I would have jumped right on to go to Oregon because everything would have been so close. It would have just been so easy. And then I always wanted to go to Colorado, maybe end up in Colorado one day. The Art Institute of Denver ended up closing. Every single place that I was looking at, the Art Institutes of California were closing down. It was a mess. And we had gotten an email from the Art Institute of Seattle, which was basically this huge like reassurance, like, I know you guys are going through a lot of stress. I know this is all very weird, but we have no plans of closing.
Yeah, that was, I actually have that right here. It was Claude Brown. She was the president of all of the Art Institutes, of the Art Institutes. She was reassuring students that Seattle wasn't closing, and that was October 31st of 2018. So when we attended Seattle to try to figure out what was happening, that was in late February, and Seattle shut down March 8th, right after we were there, like literally 8 days after we attended.
Yeah,
to see what was going on.
I set my gears towards Seattle, and we were like, let's do this. And we were looking at a bunch of places to live online, and we had finally said, let's go visit the city. Let's go see what it's like. Let's go see where we're going to live. So we did that. We're traveling around, and we're like, let's go see the Art Institute while we're here. May as well see the building. And we visited it was February.
Wait, stop.
It's okay. You can just
Movie recording has been stopped temporarily or automatically.
That camera should still be on.
Yeah, it is.
So that's fine. You can just restart it's at 12 minutes, so it's going to do that every 12 minutes.
Oh, that would have been.
Sorry. But since that one's still going, that one will go.
Is it going to just start automatically?
No, you go ahead and hit record again. You can even hit it as that's still on the screen, and it'll go back to recording.
Well, that one will go for like 30 minutes, right?
I told you I didn't know what I was doing.
Just keep an eye on the other one. It should go for the whole 30 minutes, but it might just shut itself off. You have, a lot of things to look at.
Yeah, that one will shut off one more time before that one may shut off. And then, just keep watching the cameras.
Okay.
The audio's still going, so it's fine.
Okay.
I'm a camera operator, not a camera teacher.
You know what? I'm neither, so we're all learning new things today.
I had to learn all of this from just doing this.
I mean, I took one camera class, but it was an online class, and you know how easy those things are, so.
Brandie here went to school for film.
I didn't go to school.
Anyway, we'll jump back in. I remember where I left off. I started attending Seattle. I attended Seattle online. I had already set this all into play, and that was when I had gotten my check.
And we were still living in Arizona at that point, so you were attending online courses.
I was taking my online courses, and I took, I want to say 2 classes, which they give you a class every half quarter. So I took a whole quarter's worth of classes. I may have even taken 2. I would have to look back at my transcripts, but I'm pretty sure it was just a quarter's worth of classes, and then they dropped me. And I was warned over the phone when I was talking to administrative people that there's not a lot of online classes left for you. You're going to have to move on to campus. So I just let them know that I'd be ready to move on to campus by April. And I was told that's okay, that's fine. Little did we know, we had planned to visit. It come February. I have been out of classes for a month now. I haven't heard from anybody, no emails, no phone calls, nothing. And we go to Seattle, we go to visit, and we go to the art institutes, we go to their financial offices, and they basically tell me they have no idea who I am and that they're not accepting re-enrolling students. And that was a red flag, because that was exactly what the Art Institute of Phoenix said before they closed their doors. We're not accepting re-enrolling students.
So we asked I believe he was a financial services person. I don't recall exactly who he was. Mm-hmm. We asked him, this was before it was officially announced to the students that the school was shutting down. We asked him if it was a good idea for us to move out to Seattle, because there was no warning at all. Nobody knew what was happening. They had ceased enrollment of continuing students, and it's...
Well, then everybody was left in the dark. The financial aid officers, it's very difficult to tell what was happening, or rather not they were allowed to talk about it, because when we went there and we talked to him, there wasn't a whole lot he could tell us. We asked him a lot. We were like, what's happening to the schools? Like, who's getting into receivership? Are the schools accredited? Is Seattle going to stay open? And he just had to shrug to all of it. He was like, they're really not telling us anything. I have no idea what we're doing. Oh, so when Tyler finally came up with the question, should we move here? We're going to drop everything. We have our 60-day notice in to our apartment complex. We're moving here in weeks. Should we do this? And he was like, no, don't do that.
Yeah. And literally 8 days later, on March 8th, we were there like February 20 something. On March 8th, they shut down. And the students had no idea.
The students fucking raided that place, dude.
Yeah, the students were looting the Art Institute's equipment because they just lost their education, and the school just shut them out.
It said they lost, from what I read, I'm pretty sure they lost, I think, $60,000 worth of equipment, between camera rentals that were just never returned after the school was announced closed, to people ripping the computers out and just putting them in their backpacks, and they just left.
Yeah. And let me stress again, there was no warning. The
students woke up to an email on Friday, March 8th that said the Art Institute of Phoenix is closed. And that was exactly what faculty woke up to as well, because faculty was also not alerted that the school was closing.
And then there's this group. Actually, I want to touch on this real quick before I talk about that. The day that we returned from Seattle, March 4th, my uncle sent me an article from Arizona Central or something like that, one of the news organizations, about Argosy University in Phoenix. They were having allegations thrown around about altering documents. They were altering documents that were supposed to go back to the Department of Education about tuition money that was given to them. So they were essentially fabricating information about tuition money to the Department of Education. And they were already being... They had a microscope on them already before they shut down.
Well, and what were they doing with that money that they were stifling? They were paying their employees. That's how they were getting their payroll, from government student loans that they were lying about on paper.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was the perfect noise.
Yeah. So we visited Seattle. We got the news, and we had already put in our 60-day notice. We were leaving our apartment complex. That was it.
Yeah.
It was already said and done. And there was no way I could just move to Seattle anyway. I was expecting an extra $1,000 a month from the school.
So the time frame...
Sorry.
What was that?
My bad.
One of the mics. So the time frame from July of 2018 until say February of 2019, the expectation was we were going to move to Seattle. We had our money set on Seattle. We were planning careers in Seattle, going to school in Seattle.
Can you even imagine what it would have been like to have gone to Seattle and found an apartment and signed a lease and put down all of this money into a, like, if they had done this a month later, we would have been in Seattle. We would have been living in our fucking micro studio apartment for $1,500 a month. And we would have, and I would have lost everything. I would have lost the money that we had to live. We would have had to have bailed out our lease.
Yeah.
And nobody would have paid for that.
I mean, either that or just worked, but it would have been so fucking expensive.
There would have been no way. There would have been no fucking way.
No. Not as entry level.
So,
After Seattle shut down, I saw there was this group that you and I are both a part of, and thousands of other Art Institute students are a part of. It's called IMAI, like the Art Institute, and it's a collective of lawyers and students and former faculty members and a variety of other people affiliated with all of this. And some of the faculty members were posting letters that were sent out about payment to them being withheld.
I'm pretty sure the teachers still haven't been paid.
Really?
I don't think that last paycheck ever made it out. No, I don't think anybody's ever been paid. That group we'll touch a lot more into that, but it was originated for students that were basically tricked into going to the Art Institutes. It's a big fraudulent page. Like, I was frauded by the Art Institutes. They promised me all of my hopes and dreams, and that my degree would get me where it needed to go, and that they would help me find a job, and that they're fully accredited. And here I am 5 years after graduation, still working at fucking McDonald's because I've been told by several companies that my degree does not mean anything. And I have found from other people that the Art Institutes did not give me enough knowledge to actually work in this field. And these people, after you get forbearances and you have to defer your loans and you're just struggling to pay for it, that interest adds up. And there's people in that group that have 200,000 plus in their student loans for even just 2 years of college because they either dropped out or they have a degree that's useless to them.
And something to clarify about the Art Institute, the credits that you accumulate within that school's framework are not transferable to other schools more than like half the time.
It's a lot of students that...
unless it's like general education courses, they don't really transfer because they're so specific in what they're teaching, but it's not...
I'm so sorry. I saw that coming and I didn't even...
That's fine.
He can leave me a voicemail.
So unprofessional. No, it happens.
Was that your boss?
Yeah.
I mean, it's my boss's boy.
You just silenced your boss.
I just silenced my boss's boy. Rob is not calling me. Jason's calling me. He's not as
Okay, that's
important.
fair.
He'll leave a voice message.
I know where I'm at. I'm at the barracks tomorrow.
The barracks.
We're behind.
Just by the way, everything's still recording.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
I would hope so. Oh. Heightened cache monitoring 1 and 2. That's what Argosy was on. Sorry.
What?
I have... while all of this was happening, I wrote an op-ed and I posted it to
Post for me?
my website. It's called The Fall of a Major Institution, the Art Institute from the Eyes of the Students, and it's about Brandie's story and my story and what was actually going on behind the scenes with Education Management Corporation and the lawsuits that were happening prior to that, and then the transference of the company to Dream Center Education Holdings. I talk about the Phoenix Art Institute closing and include information about Argosy and documents that were sent through email to us, Like there's a lot of details within this article, and I recommend anybody that's interested in this podcast to check that out.
Yeah, it's like everything we're talking about, but with all the research behind it, and with all of this is what was happening when, and what other lawsuits were going on, and kind of all of the behind the scenes of the school itself versus our personal story.
Yeah, because this is all just off the top of our head from experience, but there's some of it's conjecture. So there's a lot of information here, and I recommend people to actually look into this, because it's crazy how they've gotten away with all of this.
And that's what really makes you question colleges altogether. If there's anything that I've learned from this experience, is that I'm not going back. I was going to school for a film degree, because after high school, you're promised that if you don't get a college degree, you're not going to get anywhere in life. And I wanted to do art. I wanted to do film. And I heard so many horror stories from other people that were pursuing a film degree that, oh, well, I got into the field and I did all of this stuff and I got into this company, and suddenly they asked me at my job interview, where's your bachelor's? And so it was thought to me that my best course of action was to go pursue a bachelor's.
Yeah.
And I went and pursued a bachelor's. And the more that I look into it, I'm not going back. Do you have any idea how many for-profit film schools there are out there? For-profit art schools, for-profit interior design schools? It's horrifying.
Yeah, for me, it was, I had hoped that graphic design would actually be a feasible career path, because there's so many graphic design positions, but there's also the flip side of that. There are so many people pursuing graphic design. It's a very competitive industry, just like any other field in the art industry.
It's saturated, and that's where it's hard, and that's where I thought getting a bachelor's degree would just set me up at the top. I have a bachelor's, I'm better than the rest of you.
And these schools touted like employment after school kind of stuff. Like they had the job placement stuff.
The Art Institute of Phoenix had a job placement rate. If you graduate from the Art Institutes, you will graduate with a job in your field 100% of the time, is what they advertised students would graduate and find a job in their field.
For your degree?
Yes, for a filmmaking degree.
Right. And I remember seeing that was only for like the statistics for the job placement after graduation fluctuated year to year, but
it's
yours
so
in the
sad.
Wayback Machine on the website that they provided job placement information for, it said 100%, which is that's maybe for like that class.
It's so sad,
but that's
because
so unrealistic.
It sounds like they were lying.
It sounds like straight up lies.
They were. It appears to be, because we have Tyler's stepmom here who's gone to the Art Institutes and who believed it was a very, very great, it was an accredited school, and people who graduated from there went places. And it seems like 20 years ago, the Art Institutes were not what they are now. They were highly looked upon schools. They were a good place to get your degree, and now they're just not. And that's where it's very difficult for people like me to have been able to see that. I didn't realize I had to research my colleges to find out whether or not I was being scammed.
Yeah. It seems like a lot of bullshit. Like I've always had the assumption that the Department of Education was doing that, but apparently not. So make sure you research what school you're going to before you actually sink money into it.
The rumor has it, I still haven't actually fact-checked this, so you can go ahead and do that for your podcast here, but rumor has it that Betsy DeVos had, when she had released her financial records, that she had some sort of ties to the Art Institute of Phoenix.
Really?
And that was the IMAI group was very, very interested in that.
Was it specifically the Art Institutes, or was it Dream Center?
It would have been the Art Institutes was what was mentioned.
Was it like previous, like EDMC? I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, you'll have to. I didn't look at the documents. It was just hearsay from a lot of the people in the group.
We're just about 30 minutes in, and we've covered so far just what happened with the institutions, but I would also like to get into the ordeal that you've had to deal with your student loans. How they kind of have just thrown you around until somebody else got involved.
Yeah, there was, after everything that had happened to me, I was told that I qualify for what's called a closed school discharge. A closed school discharge happens when you attend college and it closes while you're in the middle of attending. And that doesn't matter. It specifically states in FSA regulations that rather or not you were a branch of the school that you're going to is still open, rather or not you're at the main campus, or if that main campus is still open, if any school closes, if you were attending a school and it closed, you qualify for closed school discharge. So I went to the Art Institute of Phoenix and it closed. And I went to the Art Institute of Seattle and it closed. Qualify for closed school discharge, right? They didn't think so.
And why didn't they think so?
They had, when I sent in all of my closed school discharge paperwork, I got a letter back from Cornerstone, which is my loan servicer. And they said, you do not qualify for closed school discharge because you do not have any loans for the Art Institute of Phoenix. I was like, well, that's pretty weird because I went there for like 3 whole years. Very vividly remember walking those halls.
Yeah.
And
I remember
sure didn't
seeing
pay.
you there.
Yeah, I sure didn't pay $30,000 out of pocket. I didn't work a cool enough job to do that.
I remember riding the light rail to school with you and hanging out at like coffee shops doing homework.
Yeah,
You were definitely there, I think.
I'm pretty sure I remember being there. And so I checked it out and I went to my loan servicer's website for, mind you, the first time ever. I've never logged into there. Who wants to sit there and look at their recruiting debt from college? I mean, honestly, it's horrifying thinking about how much debt you have. So I logged in and it had said that my loans were from the Art Institute of Las Vegas. And honestly, thank goodness that Art Institute group had been made and that I had found my way into it. I had actually been invited to it from other members that had been involved with the school closing. And
for real, that group was a godsend.
And
it was a fountain of information.
Yeah, I basically ended up hopping into that group and I was like, what is happening? And a bunch of students had chimed in and they were like, I'm also from the Art Institute of Phoenix and they did this to me. And looking further into it, it looked, and based upon what I was talking
Real
to
quick,
about.
I don't want to derail you, but I want to just get clarification on something that I've been wondering. Did they actually fulfill the teach out process that they mentioned they were going to do before they shut down?
They were told there was not going to be a teach out process. But
didn't they promise a teach out process?
No.
Isn't that
when colleges close?
Isn't that federally required?
That's not something I have the answer to. But when colleges close, that's one of the options that either they're required to give or they do give. And when the Art Institute of Phoenix closed and when the Art Institute of Seattle closed, they told us students specifically we will not be offering a teach out program. And that was where the other options came into place. The only students that were allowed to stay at the Art Institute of Phoenix were the students that were graduating by December, which was when the Art Institute of Phoenix officially closed.
And even then, a lot of them didn't graduate.
Right, and most of them didn't receive their degrees. I would love to touch base with Vanessa and see if she ever got her degree.
Yeah, Dream Center never contacted me back about getting my degree.
And he graduated like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Time's fun. But yeah, they had said that my loans were from the Art Institute of Las Vegas, and come to find out this happened to plenty of other students. They were all like, my loans are from Vegas too, but I attended Phoenix. What is going on? And come to find out that the Art Institute of Las Vegas, it had its own accreditation issues. So what had happened was when Phoenix closed, the Art Institute of Las Vegas...
Pretty dark, by the way.
Yeah.
The Art Institute of Las Vegas had also threatened closure, but then it had other people trying to bring it back to life. Other teachers got involved and they were going to make their own LLC for the Art Institute of Las Vegas. So
keep talking. I'm going to fix the white balance or something.
Okay. I believe in you.
I'm sorry, I'm useless.
No, it's okay.
It's fine.
I wouldn't be able to do it either.
We didn't think it'd be this complicated.
The sun is going down.
Oh, that doesn't look that bad.
I'm more talking about that one.
Oh, fuck that one.
Okay.
Anyway, long story short, the Art Institute of Las Vegas got the governmental school code from the Art Institute of Phoenix. So when you borrow money from FAFSA, for anybody that's ever done it, you have to enter the code of the school that you want the money to go towards. And I entered the Art Institute of Phoenix, the one I went to. And it ended up being changed. The Art Institute of Las Vegas took it. So when Phoenix officially closed, in the database, every single person who attended the Art Institute of Phoenix, it was immediately changed to the Art Institute of Nevada, Las Vegas.
And let's add that the Art Institute of Nevada, Las Vegas, that location actually also went under, and the faculty pitched in to try to purchase the school. So it wasn't even owned by Dream Center Education Holdings at this point.
And that is still currently happening. There was a recent article released about the teachers. They're just getting their final check. Can you take over the school? Do you have the money to do it? The accreditation is in its final steps of process of being transferred over. And so it was very frustrating because Cornerstone was not any loan servicer, to be quite honest with you, was not really prioritizing the situation, and they were very unsympathetic about it. I went to Phoenix. I qualified for closed school discharge. I had already qualified. I needed to fill out 2 because I went to Seattle as well. And when I filled out Seattle's paperwork, they were like, "Oh yeah, Seattle closed," and they gave me my discharge, and it was really no problem. So I was really confused as to why it was such a hassle to get my loans forgiven through Phoenix. And
bear in mind, this was happening over the span of months.
Yeah.
This wasn't like a day. This was months.
Yeah, the first time I had ever called Cornerstone, when I got that letter back in the mail that said you don't qualify for discharge because your loans are from Vegas, I called Cornerstone and I was like, well, what do? I didn't attend Vegas. I can send you proof. I have my transcripts if that's what you want. And they were like, no, just go ahead and fill out a closed school discharge for the Art Institute of Las Vegas, because Las Vegas was already threatening closure. So I'm like, whatever. And I did that. And I got a letter sent back in the mail that was like, you don't qualify for closed school discharge because Las Vegas is still open. And I was like, well, what do I do? So I called Cornerstone again. This is probably a couple of weeks, if not a month later, because, man, you postal mail. They just, they wait like weeks before they send it.
7 to 10 days.
Yeah, after it's been sitting in their mailbox. Or their outbox. Sorry, not the one that... Mailmen do a good job. People that send letters don't do a good job. If that makes any sense. But anyway...
A+ to the U.S. Mail Service.
But anyway, it was probably almost a month that I had gotten the news back. If not like 2-3 weeks that I don't qualify for forgiveness again. I call them and they tell me, well, we're just going to have to wait until the Department of Education updates its systems. There's nothing we can do to help you. We have to wait until it's updated in the system that that's not the correct school code. And I was like, I mean, I don't really care what school code it's under. The school I went to is closed and I have proof I went there. And they were just like,
not our problem. Start paying us in a week.
And I had, at that point in time, my loans were 2 weeks out. They were 2 weeks out, and I had gotten a hold of Tyler had posted the letter that I got from Cornerstone that said, you don't qualify for closed school discharge because Las Vegas is still open. And he put the caption that it was for me and that I went to Phoenix, and kind of just being like, what should we do? And somebody from an organization called the Debt Collective, Thomas Goki, oh, my savior, he had posted in that chat and was basically like, how about we hop on the phone and we talk about this? Let's see a little bit more about this. And so I hop on the phone with him, and he had actually called Cornerstone with me that day. He was on the phone with me. We called them together to talk about, I didn't go to Vegas, so what do I do? And yeah, the Cornerstone was just very unsympathetic about it. And eventually the Debt Collective and Thomas Goki got me and another person's case, which was the exact same situation. Different, actually same loan servicer. Sorry, Cornerstone, you're going to get a lot of flack for this. They pushed our case over to somebody in Arizona with their education. They got in touch with somebody from Congress, and they had...
Yeah, they had anybody who was affiliated with the Art Institute of Phoenix who lost out on their education. They invited everybody to contact the senators and the House representatives of Arizona.
Yeah, and they had and it finally made its way over to Congress floor. They had
a congressional hearing.
They had somebody from the Department of Education there.
Before that, They also reached out to a reporter with AZ Central, and they had your story aired.
That was after.
No, that was before.
That was after.
That was
because
before.
the
That was
congressional
before the
was-
hearing.
The hearing was in the article.
That was the second part of the article. That was there was the first article, and then there was an additional article that came out.
I was pretty sure I remember. I don't.
I know for sure.
But between the time for sure, I had been asked from Thomas permission to use my name on Congress floor, and I remembered being like, oh, absolutely, please, like get the story out there, like tell somebody that this is going to be awful, because in 2 weeks I'm going to start owing $360 a month for a school that I'm not going to, and that doesn't mean anything to me anymore. That's a big payment, $360 a month. You know what?
Can I just point out that they mispronounced your name when they said it on the Congress floor?
They did.
Was it Brandie Land?
Yeah, like Lant or something.
Yeah.
Lant. it was. They had my paperwork.
It was funny, but we knew.
I knew who I was. They had like my Cornerstone documents that said my name on it. I wasn't that concerned. But yeah, he had asked me if it was okay, and then he had asked me if it was okay if I got in touch with somebody from news reporters, and I was like, sure, whatever. He was like, would you be okay with talking to them? Sure, whatever. And so somebody from AZ Central calls me, and we have a long talk about what had happened, and she asked me how I felt about it and how it personally impacted my life, much like we're talking about here. Told her a lot of my personal story. We'll plug in that AZ Central article too. Rachel had written that article. She's fantastic. She's very sweet. And yeah, eventually between that article and them, they finally got a Congress hearing, and somebody from the Department of Education was meeting with whoever they got in touch with, Arizona Senate, and they explicitly talked about my situation, and they talked about another person from the Art Institute of Phoenix situation, and discussed what had happened, and the fact that we don't qualify for discharge, and the fact that there is absolutely no reason, and that it is ridiculous that we have to jump through hoops to get this discharge, and that it is the quote unquote in that hearing was, this is a difference between freedom in your life and financial ruin. If I had to pay those loans, even though I didn't graduate because the school closed on me, that would have ruined me. That would have been it. My credit would have been gone forever. I would have been one of those people that have the $200,000+ loans, and their degree doesn't do anything for them. But I wouldn't have had a degree, which means less. And eventually, it was still kind of a toss-up. That hearing had happened, and we called Cornerstone one more time. And Cornerstone had told me, oh, you know what? We'll put you in administrative forbearance. We'll do that for you. Like, that's so sweet. Thank you. Now I don't have to pay yet. And they still didn't really have any information for us. They still didn't really know what was happening. They still didn't know if I technically qualified for closed school discharge. And after such a fight, they broke. And I got a call from somebody directly working with FSA or directly from the Department of Education. A woman had called me, and she had said, I just want to let you know that your discharge got approved. We have approved it here. We have sent it on over to Cornerstone, and you should be getting a letter in the mail soon that says that you've qualified for discharge, and that we're sorry for what happened, and that it wasn't Cornerstone's fault, and that we're going to be looking into the other 200+ people this happened to in Phoenix explicitly.
You can't hear him, can you?
I don't know if I can hear him in the recording, but I can definitely hear him.
Okay.
Is that camera still going?
Yeah, they're both still going.
Okay.
I'm paying attention.
Just making sure.
I
believe in you.
The dog's just crying.
He's so sad because his mom's operating the camera.
She won't pay attention to me.
I'm about to put you outside, honestly.
He's like, oh no. He didn't like that word.
So when Cornerstone officially folded and forgave your loans, do you think that was just a publicity thing at that point? Until Thomas pointed out that they need to forgive it for the other 200 people?
That was kind of what ended up happening. Thomas was really great to me, and I wouldn't have even gotten this far if it wasn't for him helping me through it. But he stressed to the person that I had talked to after my loans were discharged. He was like, "You're going to look into the cases of everybody else at the art institutes, right?" And I do strongly believe that had everything to do with it. I heard nothing from my loan servicer. Nobody really cared ever until I was contacted by a reporter and until my name hit Congress floor. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, the Department of Education was like, "Oh, please stop complaining about us. Your loans are on its way to discharge."
Once it became a PR thing and the loan company looked like shit, like they were fucking over a ton of students because the reporters were involved, Congress was involved, tons of students were involved, there were lawsuits going on, like it became real. But until then, it was just a game to them.
Well, the problem is it's a game in the first place, right? I mean, the Art Institute, they went on for years putting students through hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt for degrees that don't do anything for them. And they're used to students calling them being like, "Hey, my degree's useless and I don't have the money to pay you." And that sucks, buddy. That's too bad. Guess Betsy DeVos should do her job, or someone in the Department of Education make sure these fraudulent schools aren't happening, or you should do your research.
Yeah. And everything that we have talked about does not even cover people who got the GI Bill, who got fucked over, and you only have one opportunity to use your GI Bill. So if you use your GI Bill and the Art Institute closes, you just lost your education. You served in the military, you get your benefits, and you lost them.
Yeah.
Because the federal government didn't do their fucking job, investigate schools for fraudulent activity, and shut them down.
The last that I had heard was students that used a GI Bill, any kind of veteran who's attending the Art Institute did not get it back. They were not able to get it back.
Yeah. They talked about that in the congressional hearing as well.
They just had a large shrug and they were like, "Well, that's where it went. The money's already gone, man. It's done spent. Don't know how you plan on getting it back."
Yeah.
And it's sad. We have a friend that went to the Art Institute that went in through his GI Bill, and the school closed while he was attending, and now he can't go anywhere else. He doesn't get the option to transfer to another college and do it again. He was relying on his GI Bill to get up through college. That's why you joined the military, right? So you have a better opportunity for school, and so you have some good pay, and the Art Institute just took part of that away from him.
Yeah. What's really surprising is within that IMAI group, the people that don't believe that this is actually a political issue, because
that's a big thing in that group.
How else is any of this going to get resolved? Like, we need to put pressure on politicians.
Well, I think a big issue in that group is naturally, people of all shapes and sizes got screwed over by the Art Institute. Democrats, Republicans, Independents. Not every liberal is an art student. There's plenty of people who saw the job opportunities in those fields and they went for it and they got screwed. And so there's a lot of people in that group that have all of this just, backbreaking debt, and their degree didn't get them anywhere. And they're like, I deserve some justice for what the school did to me and hundreds of thousands of other people. But the only people that are talking about loan forgiveness are people that are very progressive, very on the left-leaning sides, such as Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. People that are like, we should abolish all debt. There's not a lot of people on the right that are talking about that, and there's a lot of people on the right that were screwed over by the art institutes.
Yeah.
So when it comes to topic of how do we stop this, the answer is politics. The Department of Education is our government. Our government is in charge of that. I'm not in charge of that. You're not in charge of that. It's not a private institution. And we need to have somebody that ensures that the Department of Education is doing its job, like how Betsy DeVos is not ensuring that the Department of Education is doing its job. And when only left-leaning politicians want to talk about that, then people on the right want to suddenly talk about how it's not a political issue and how politics aren't going to fix this. And that doesn't make any sense.
No. It seems like they're apathetic.
Not necessarily saying that Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren or whoever is announcing these is going to necessarily fix the problem, but boy, would it sure help to not have student debt, and would it sure help to have somebody finally step their foot in that picture and say, we need to make sure people going to college.
It'd be very beneficial to have a Secretary of Education that actually did their job. There are hundreds, maybe thousands, probably thousands of students who have defense against repayment applications that have been submitted into the Department of Education for shit like this. Like, aside from just the schools closing, the Art Institute conducted fraudulent activity and they got sued for it. They paid out like $90 million in 2015. They never admitted to it. Argosy was committing fraudulent activity. People who went to the Dream Center Education Holdings schools or Education Management Corporation schools, they should not have to pay their loans to these companies who fucked them over.
Well,
and the companies aren't even involved anymore. It's the loan companies who are making the money off of this now.
Let's let's not forget, a couple years back, ITT Tech closed. There was a lot of people that went to ITT Tech, and that was it University of Phoenix? God, no. University of Phoenix is still ripping everybody off to this day.
Yeah.
There's a lot though. When I had finally checked that list of closed schools to try to prove that I went to the Art Institute of Phoenix and that it closed on me, there was a lot. There was like 50 plus schools on there that had just shut their doors and affected tens of hundreds of thousands of students that are attending their campuses, and they're just suddenly like, oh, sorry, we were ripping you off and it didn't quite work out in our favor. Now we got to close. And ITT Tech was a big institution. I remember seeing that, and if you told me you went to ITT Tech 4 years ago, I would have been like, you know what the fuck you're doing. And it closed, and it screwed over a bunch of students, and those students also, it was the same situation, but that kind of brings us back to somebody needs to make sure this is not happening.
Isn't ITT Tech still open?
No. God, no. No, there's none. There's zero of those. There's still some art institutes out there, though, if you want to go get ripped off somewhere else. Yeah.
What's surprising about all of this as well was Cornerstone wouldn't forgive your loans. And they were like, you could still go to the Art Institute. It's still open. Your school didn't close because Nevada's open. Why? They paid no respect to your situation.
That's right.
After
We didn't
having schools closed twice on you.
We didn't even touch on that. I had gotten a letter from right before I got that phone call from the Department of Education that was like, please quit talking shit. Your loans have been approved for discharge. I got an email. I sent a complaint through FSA's website after all of this. I was like, maybe I can just directly go through there, explain my situation, and somebody with empathy is going to read this and be like, oh, this is wrong. So I explained my situation, and I got an email back that had said, you know what, how about we just read it? Let's talk about the weather while I pull it up.
Ooh, that really brightened your face.
Your face looks beautiful now. Oh, thank you.
Not that it didn't before. You look beautiful.
I think it looked really beautiful.
It's... Oh, yes.
Oh, jeez. Have my headphones on the mic.
If you could just hold that phone there the rest of the time.
Is the lighting that low now? It's been changing throughout the podcast.
Yeah, the other camera's like pretty much dark.
For those viewers who are listening and not viewing.
I have to go to a different secure website. So it's... Oh, God.
So briefly, while you search for that email, I want to talk about my degree. The situation that I had was I graduated from the Art Institute of Phoenix on March 23rd, 2017 was the official date that I graduated for the graduation ceremony, but I had actually graduated in December. So I don't even know what date I actually graduated, because the ceremony was in March, but the graduation was in December. And I never received the official document that says I graduated. Since then I've received transcripts after emailing a variety of people for that. I emailed the Dean of Academic Affairs, Gil Meha, for my degree. I emailed, let's see, Gil, Dean of Academic Affairs, Cynthia, the Registrar of Phoenix.
Sorry.
And then we even attended, or I keep saying attended, but we went to the Art Institute of Seattle, and I also attempted to retrieve my degree there. And they sent me to somebody else who was overseeing what was happening in Phoenix. I think that was Cynthia, maybe. I emailed like at least 5 different people about it and called people and went in, and it never came to me. That was over a year. And since then, I've emailed Dream Center Education Holdings about it, and it's still nothing. I've heard nothing.
Yeah, backtracking again to that email before I ever actually got contacted by the Department of Education, and before everything was finalized, after the AZ Republic article, after I had my name mentioned on Congress floor, I got an email from, it was when I contacted Ombudsman, Cornerstone's Ombudsman office, and it says, we're writing here to address the case you filed with the Department of Education regarding our account with Cornerstone Education Loan Services. If we understand correctly, you are seeking approval for your request to discharge your student loans due to a school closure. We're happy to provide clarifying information to you. In order to properly verify the actual school you attended, your school reports to the National Student Loan Data System the name and the specific code of your school. The school and code reported to Cornerstone through the system is the Art Institute of Las Vegas. After thorough research, it looks like the Art Institute of Phoenix is a branch of the Art Institute of Las Vegas, and according to the closed school weekly monthly reports administered by the Department of Education, the Art Institute of Phoenix, the specific branch you attended, closed on December 14th of 2018. Following closure details on this report, there's a section that gives student arrangements as to continue education. Oh, goodness. To continue education with their credits received at the Art Institute of Phoenix, the arrangement are as follows. According to school officials, students who did not complete their program of study prior to the last date of instruction, students were able to transfer to an external institution through articulation agreement and Art Institute locations, including Atlanta, San Diego, Las Vegas, Tampa, Seattle, Miami. And all the credit hours taken in the students program were accepted at their new campus. And based on the guidance given by student official of your school, you were able to transfer to an external institution and continue your program. And for this reason, your closed school discharge application is denied. So I took that as they do not approve my loans because Vegas is still open and I can still attend Vegas. However, I am also certain that they had the paperwork that said I transferred to Seattle. And they were like, so you don't qualify. Because they couldn't look just one step further that said I did go to Seattle, but it also closed on me. And I have already received discharge from Seattle.
Yeah.
So I had basically just replied to the email reiterating FSA regulations stating that I didn't even have to transfer schools. I qualify for a closed school discharge regardless if there's other branches open. And that I went to Seattle and it also closed on me, and basically being like, do I need to drop everything and move to Las Vegas now? Is that the expectation? Are you going to be paying for my moving costs? And yeah,
because we already did this once before and it didn't work out. Seattle closed.
Yeah, and suddenly the Department of Education cared, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, you'll be forgiven. Don't you worry about it."
Yeah, it's crazy. What do you think about all of it, being an outsider?
Honestly, I never wanted, I mean, that's kind of a lie. I did kind of want to go to school when I was in high school, but my senior year, I kind of decided that, I didn't have anything that I wanted to pursue specifically, and I didn't want to be essentially stuck in the situation Brandie was stuck in, where I have a useless degree, or I went to school for something that I may not 2 years later want to pursue anymore. So I never wanted to pursue going to school in the first place. But I also think it's completely messed up that, it went on for so long and that it's gone on for so long, and to the point where just the only reason Brandie even got helped was because her name was said on Congress floor and because she was contacted by a reporter. Honestly, there should be more.
And Thomas Goki, we cannot let that pass. Like he contacted Cornerstone directly with Brandie and said, "You're straight up lying to this student." So
Yeah,
we got to
please-
give him credit.
Please mind you, I did not. Thomas Goki was not like
This
oh,
camera is about to die, by the way.
Which one? Okay, I've got a battery charging.
Okay. Just letting you know.
Upstairs though.
As
We're
the
just about
useless
done, though.
camera person that I am.
You're not useless.
I feel pretty useless sometimes.
Thomas was not somebody who contacted me and then was like, for a low rate of blank, I can absolutely help you and represent you. He did all this for absolutely free. He contacted me on his own time. He was calling Cornerstone with me on his own time. I did not pay a dime to this man. He's like,
Shout out
If
to
I'm paying-
Empathy.
if I'm paying anybody $360 a month, it is Thomas Goki for getting me out of all of this life-threatening debt. Thank you, Thomas Goki. We miss you. We love you.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to have him on to hear exactly what his perspective is on all this, because I know he the only thing that I know about him is that he helped you, that he's involved with Debt Collective, and I saw a speech that he did on Bernie Sanders' platform.
I just think the scary thing is if it's happened here, it's definitely happening other places. Like you mentioned University of Phoenix, and I mean,
It's a great school.
I
Just
think-
look into it.
I
Well,
think it's interesting how
The context as well. Brandie is one individual. There were thousands of people that attended these schools. Thousands of people have been dealing with this. And it only happened for you because there was political pressure put on.
how many people have just kind of like bit the bullet and just said, fuck it, like I don't have the time or the money or the resources to, get the situation solved. Like you mentioned, people are $200,000 in debt and they're just working at McDonald's or working anywhere or however they can because they have to fix a 2, 3, 4-year mistake.
Yeah.
And it's not fair to be given the promise that you're going to go to college, you're going to get a degree, and you're going to get a job, and it's going to be better paying just for that to be false. It's really not common sense that you can get a degree and it do nothing for you. It's really not, especially when you go specifically in your field. You go to a trade school, you go to a specific hands-on location that's going to teach you everything you need to know in field experience, and then to find out it didn't do anything for you. We don't talk about
That's kind of how I feel.
We don't
I
talk
feel
about
like-
how going to college can be a huge waste of time.
I feel like it was great up until I actually graduated, and then I never received my degree. I couldn't find a job. I worked at a print shop for 2 years, and that was sort of graphic design experience, but it wasn't actually graphic design because I wasn't doing graphic design. I was doing print operations. And since then, I haven't been able to find a job. Yeah, I've interviewed at quite a few places.
It's really frustrating. Nobody cares if you have a degree from the Art Institute of Phoenix. Realistically, nobody. The more I look in the field, the less I'm finding people with the horror story of I applied to a job and I don't have a bachelor's. It really does look like a portfolio is what matters. I interned with a media company when I was still attending school, and
It definitely does matter.
there were people that they freelanced that they didn't even hire to work with them because they didn't have the money to do that. They had freelanced their animators because we don't have money to pay an animator in here. And they didn't ask the freelancer if they had a college degree, and if they went to an accredited school, they looked at their portfolio and asked, "Can you do this?" I could have been the freelancer. It wasn't. The more I was in the field, the less I saw the degree as relevant. And I think that's disappointing because it was just drilled into me how significant it was going to be and how much it was going to change my life. And boy, did it change my life.
Yeah, that's exactly why I only went for an associate's, because I didn't want to rack up a ton of student debt, especially since the Art Institute was double the tuition cost of, say, ASU, Arizona State University.
Yeah.
It was double for an associate's. I was paying what a bachelor's would cost.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I my parents wanted me to go to school. They wanted me to choose a school. So I decided, well, I kind of want to do graphic design. We'll go here. I'll get an associate's and then I'll have a degree.
What great good that did us.
I mean, I'm definitely milking
you know what?
this.
I do blame you to the full extent because I was living out here in Idaho when I graduated high school, and I found
Did you just say you blamed Tyler?
I do, and I'm explaining because I got accepted to a different for-profit university known as the New York Film Academy. I was accepted to their Burbank, California location.
I remember that.
And that's where I wanted to go. I was like, I'm going to throw hundreds of thousands of dollars. This school was like 2-3 times the cost of the Art Institute of Phoenix.
You were right next to LA.
Yeah, and they were like, we are right next to Universal Studios. We're going to get you in-field experience. You're going to meet people in the field. And I was like, oh, yes. I'm 18 and I'm going to be making movies, guys. I'm going to be a movie editor. I'm going to be in the credits of the Marvel films you watch.
Yeah.
I was hype.
All the connections are in LA,
Just
right?
to find out, I didn't qualify for the, FAFSA didn't fully cover a for-profit school like that. They were like, no, you need to take out some personal loans. And my family doesn't have great credit. I don't have great credit. It didn't happen. And this guy here was like, well, I'm going to the Art Institute of Phoenix. And so I moved out here with him and we went to Phoenix together. And yeah, here we are.
Yeah, it was great until it shut down.
I don't really blame him. I would have went. I remember watching.
How are the cameras doing?
This one's still dying. And this one's
It's
still
just
dark.
got one bar?
Yeah, it's flashing red at me.
Oh.
Well, that concludes Your Thoughts podcast.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
we can
been
finish.
flashing red for like a couple seconds.
It's fine. We're at an hour and 6 minutes, so we can be
Wow,
done.
we've really been talking for an hour.
Yeah.
Oh.
This is a lot of shit to unpack.
Yeah. I want to thank Harley for being our camera operator.
You don't have to thank me. Don't thank me until you see the footage.
All right.
It's gotta be
I'll
better.
take your word for it because
I mean,
I'm sorry,
you know
Jay.
what? I know the
I'm
basics,
sorry, Jay, but
like the
it
rule of
just-
thirds. I get that shit.
it didn't happen on that one.
We
And
love
there
you,
was-
Jay. We miss you.
To be fair, it was stormy. Like, it's getting stormy now, but it was pretty stormy that night. There's been a couple that the video's been pretty bad, but
I'm really excited for these French fries that just got left for us.
Oh no, I was eating those while I was recording. Not gonna lie about it.
I was really scared Harley was gonna eat them all. I'm like,
Nope, I
"No."
left some for you. I thought about you. Don't worry.
so thankfully we leave this story on a happier note because Brandie's loans were actually forgiven.
I do not owe. I was forgiven for $33,000 of debt.
Cat.
So handsome. Of debt from the Art Institute of Phoenix. They admitted I went there. Can I help you?
Floyd, our cat, makes a cameo in every podcast.
Every
So
podcast.
handsome.
Yeah, if you watch the videos, he's in almost every single one.
Ooh, now my dog's gonna make a cameo. Ajax, stop.
That was me.
All right.
Before we get too carried away. Thanks for
So-
having me on. I live in this house and I usually man the camera, so it's weird being
Thanks
on
for
the
letting
other
me
side.
man the camera. I also live in this house.
Yeah, thanks for being on.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just
Don't be careful what college you go to, kids. Is my closing.
Yeah,
Make sure you know what you want to do. Make sure your university is not for profit and that it's not going to rip you off.
yeah.
College may help you. It could send you far in life. If you're gonna do art though, just do it yourself, guys. Just do it yourself.
To find more episodes of Your Thoughts podcast, you can find us on Spotify, Google Play, iTunes, Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever podcasts are. We're also on YouTube. We have video format and audio format. There's a website as well. It's tylerbeck.design. And within that website, we have a landing page for Your Thoughts podcast.
That's also where you can find the article about the Art Institutes and our personal story.
Yeah,
That we just
again-
talked about with some more context and all that research that you don't have to do.
Yeah. I'll include the website in the description. It's in every podcast description, so check it out.
Thanks, guys. We'll miss you.
That concludes Your Thoughts podcast.
Bye, everybody.